Welcome to your editor. This space in Unreal Engine is where you will be spending all of your time while building a game. The editor is the world that the players will see and live in when they play your video game. So, getting familiarized with this editor is going to be very key for all who are using Unreal Engine. And this editor is one of the simplest editor that I have seen, and it's very easy to use. The controls are very simple. You can scroll up on your mouse button to zoom in. You can scroll down on your mouse button to zoom out. You can click the mouse wheel and you can actually move the camera left, right, up, and down. And you can right click on the mouse button to rotate left, right, up, and down. And you can left click the mouse button to rotate left, right, pan forward, and pan backward. Alternatively, you can hold down Alt and also the left mouse button to rotate around the entire area. You can also use the WSAD controls to move around the map. You just have to left click and then now you can press WSAD to move around the map as you would like. And WSAD will take you in the direction that you are facing. To move objects around your editor, you would have to use one of the three gizmos. You have your directional gizmo, which can help you move your object along the XYZ axis. Then you have your rotational gizmo, which will help you to rotate your object around the XYZ axis. Then you have your scale gizmo, which will help you to size your object. For example, if I would like to move this object that's in the world, I can select this movement gizmo and I can drag this item anywhere around the map by dragging these arrows that is pointed. Red is always indicative of the x-axis, green is always the y-axis, and blue is the z-axis, which is up and down. And it's also stated at the very bottom here. I can also move the object along the x-axis by holding the red arrow, and I can also move the object along the y-axis by holding the green arrow. And I can hold in between two of these arrows and I can move in that specific direction, or I can actually move it anywhere I would like. The rotational gizmo works exactly like your movement gizmo, but this just rotates from the pivot point. The pivot point is usually where the gizmo is located at. Now, if I rotate it along the z-axis, the item will move along the z-axis. And I can rotate the item along the y-axis. X-axis is the same. And last gizmo is the scale gizmo. You can scale the object along the z-axis, the x-axis, or the y-axis. Alternatively, you can use the white point in this gizmo to scale it in all directions. Just like this. At the top right of your editor, you have your snapping options, which tells you that whenever you scale an object in with the movement gizmo, it's going to move 10 Unreal units every time it moves. Click on it and you can actually select different type of snap points. If I select 500, it's going to move 500 units for every single movement. If I were to select 50, then it's going to move 50 units for every single time I drag left and right. Same thing for the rotation. You can select your angle of rotation that you would like. And also for the scale, you can choose how quickly you want to scale the item while using the gizmo. Alternatively, you also have the transform function in the details column to the right, which you can use to move its location, either direction, move its rotation as you would like, and also scale as you would like. And as for the perspectives of the editor, at the top left, you have your perspective option. You can select it. And default, it's going to go into the perspective mode where you can see what the player will see. And you can actually choose between multiple different perspectives like the top perspective, which will always load in default wireframe. And you can change this where you have the wireframe option up here. You can change it to the lit option where you can see it from a lit perspective. And you can also do an unlit perspective. You can also see it as a lit wireframe perspective. And you can see lightings only to see the shadows and where the lights are coming from and such. There's so many different options that you can choose from, but as a beginner, I would only stick with either the wireframe if you want to snap things properly, or I would use like the lit. You also have the same option from the bottom angle, left view, then you have your right view, and then also your front view and back view. You get to choose which angle you want to look at while placing objects or moving objects around the world. Perspective for me is the best option because as it gives me the most amount of freedom to move around the editor as I wish and change things at will. And this is all you need to know as a beginner in Unreal Engine Editor. Throughout the entire tutorial course, we will add more and more things in the Unreal Editor that you will learn. But as a beginner, if you know how to move things around the editor and take a look at different perspectives in the editor, that should be good enough to get started with your first game. You don't need to know all the advanced stuff. Now on the right side, you have your outliner. The outliner consists of everything that is in the world. every single material that you place in the world will get a line created in this outliner, which allows you to easily select these items from the outliner if you're looking for something specific, or you can select it in the world and you can see it on the outliner selected. If you're looking for something specific, you could also use the search option to find a specific item that's in the map as well. As your game gets fleshed out, I highly recommend start using folders in the outliner to group things. You can group anything and everything you would like in this outliner by creating multiple different folders to keep it organized. Because when you start adding more and more assets to your game, it's going to be a big mess here. And it would be very much so easier if you start organizing them in different folders so you keep your outliner nice and clean. Right below the outliner is your details panel. Now the details panel will give you details about the object that you have selected in your editor. If I were to select this wall, I get specific options like the transform, and then I can also take a look at what type of mesh it's using and what type of material it's using and such. As you add more and more items and blueprints into your game, you're going to start seeing more and more options available for your details of that specific item. If I were to select the player start, it actually gives me a lot more options because it's a player start and it has a lot of built-in functionality. And again, as a beginner, you don't need to know all of this stuff. We're only going to be working with specific line items and specific things in the game. So it's going to be very easy for you to learn. And once you get to the advanced levels, you will use different aspects of this to modify or edit your actor in the world. At the bottom of the Unreal editor, the one thing that you will be using every single time that you're in the editor is the content drawer. Click on the content drawer. You will actually get a little folder, almost like the documents in your computer. And this will contain all of the assets that you have in the game. As you download more and more assets, you will be using this content drawer to keep collection of everything that you're adding to the game. I highly recommend one more time is to create new folders whenever possible and keep everything organized. Make a folder for every single aspect of your game. There's no limit to how many folders you have, and there's no limit to how big your game can be. Always make sure to keep your content folder organized. This will save you tons of time down the road as your project gets bigger and bigger. Now, the content drawer actually has multiple different views here. The left side of your content drawer is exactly the same as your folder view here, but it's just more of an easier collapsed view where you can actually select multiple different folders and get to the content much more quicker. Every subfolder that you create within a folder will allow you to expand that folder and see what's inside of it notified by this little arrow icon. If there's an arrow icon, that's most likely mean there is another folder inside of it that you're able to open. You would not be able to see any of the assets on the left panel of the content drawer. However, you'll be able to open each and every single folders from here. So consider this as your folder view of your content drawer. If on the right side you have your settings, if when you click on it, you can actually take a look at how you want to view your folders. This is more preference than anything else. You can view it as a list if you would like, or you can view it as a column. The default that I like is the tiles. This looks the best. And also you can choose where your filters are going to be, whether your filters you want them to be horizontal or you want them to be vertical. Now, by default, you're not going to have any of these filters. These are custom filters that are made in my previous games that Unreal Engine saves and brings it forward to the next project that I create. You can easily add a filter in here by selecting this filter option and clicking on which filter you would like to see. If you would like to see all of your water waves in your game, you can just click on this, and then that will add the filter and this will save. So when you open up the next project, this waterways will be there for you. You can use the search bar in the content browser to search for any assets that you would like or any blueprint of your choice. Alternatively, you can press Ctrl+P on your keyboard to open up the open asset window. And here you can search for any asset in your game and you can open it from here. And the last thing that I want to show you is in the content drawer, there is an option for save all. Please remember to hit this button once in a while and save things in your game, as you don't want to lose any of your progress just because we forgot to save it. Unreal Engine does have a autosave option, but I highly recommend for you to click this button whenever possible for you to save your progression. Alright folks, that's your quick guide on the Unreal Engine editor. You can support the channel by hitting that like button and also subscribing, which will allow me to make more and more beginner-friendly videos just like this. I'll catch you on the next video.